There's layers to this.
The next scenario is me asking you to dance and you say no, and as a follow, let's just say as a follow, and then you start following Mackenzie. I'd be more offended.
I would just do that any day.
Yeah, you guys.
Hey guys, welcome back to MackZaddy. We have another juicy topic for you today.
Juicy.
It's so juicy.
Ooh.
And it is about role switching in our community, which I feel is a very hot thing right now.
Yeah.
Globally, not just in our own community here.
Oh, it's so hot.
So hot.
So
and
juicy.
So juicy.
So juicy, it's so hot.
So juicy. and so
It's been
hot.
juicy for a while though.
Yeah.
Like it's not a new thing.
But it's now
Has it
getting
been
hot.
Yeah, now it's getting
Now
hot.
it's getting hot.
It's hot.
Yeah.
Well, I definitely enjoy it because I have done pretty well with it recently.
You go
I don't know
alright.
what you're talking about.
Yeah, I don't even care.
I honestly, so this is, and we're going to talk about it from multiple angles and like,
Single.
Objective way,
yeah,
but
so-
also a personal way.
and yeah, we're open to lots of different discussions around this because I've been a part of other dance communities like Mon Jive and West Coast Swing, and in different countries and all that sort of stuff. Like, partner dancing is the majority where this is like role switching is involved. But
Well,
I
yeah,
think
solo, you don't need a
you do you.
partner to
You do
switch
you, boo.
the stuff.
Also, relationships, role
You know?
switching.
Yep.
Yeah, relationships.
Anyone's single.
Yeah.
Mackenzie's
Mackenzie's
also
looking.
single.
Yeah, anyone best with roles.
It's very interesting because I like, so as a competitor standpoint and like competing is the opposite role. Like I really enjoy following.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm the best.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't, like drawing me, I think if I was to draw me, I'd be like, okay, cool. I know there's certain things I can do, certain things I can't do. The styling aspect that I bring is not necessarily the top at all, like the body movements, all that sort of thing. I can follow, which is I can follow. You put out stuff, I can probably follow it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you get that at any level.
If
not
I
just your
yes,
level.
absolutely. If I influence, I love to influence, but can my leader stay on the track of like I'm not taking over the lead and like make my influence a part of their dance and then turn it into like them keep going, and like, sometimes I struggle with that.
Yeah.
So I just follow now most of the time.
Yeah.
And influence where I know I can do this and like put myself back in a position of following pretty quick.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. I'd be interested on how other fellows kind of like deal with that influencing mindset as well.
Yeah.
But as a lead, I don't have to think about any of that, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In terms of like just how we feel about it though, generally, I think, I mean, as a person that runs a school and teaches classes, I love that people switch roles, especially when you have imbalanced numbers.
Yeah.
Super
yeah.
handy.
Yeah.
I love that more people are open to doing the other role to fill in the numbers.
The crappy thing about that though is that majority of the time, correct me if I'm wrong, is that in classes, what role do we have more of most of the time? Follows, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so then it becomes the thing of followers learn to lead before the leaders learn how to follow.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Followers.
Yes.
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 Yeah.
So it's now the leader's skill level is probably a bit behind being able to follow.
Yeah.
This is so going to get tricky. Do you know what I mean? They're a
Yeah.
bit behind now because they've taken more time or like maybe, to show an interest in
Focused on learning has shifted to leading, which
Yeah.
is then getting less time to focus on your
Yeah.
following.
The followers have like steadily grown as both roles.
Yeah.
Like I'm going to say the main role first, being like if you're a follower or a leader. So if you're a follower, then you focus on leading as a secondary role. Like that role, as you grow, it might slow down your following, but you'll grow as a whole.
Yeah.
And then leaders don't learn till later how to follow, and then they might get better at leading.
Yeah.
Like, but then they'll be probably pretty bad or behind on following.
What would you think, like, if you're like a newer dancer or you just started, do you think would be like the appropriate time frame to then start switching to another role?
I think do it as soon as possible.
As soon as possible.
Do it as soon as possible. Yeah. I have a great appreciation for it. Depending on what you want. Like, I think it's good for many reasons, like understanding the difficulties, so understanding and appreciating the other person's role.
Yeah.
Also, like just growth as a whole is if you get both of them, then competition-wise, you're gonna be able to understand both.
Yeah.
Teaching, understanding both is great, and being hired is great if you can do both. You can then become a solo teacher if you wanted to, or that sort of thing. Routines, learning both roles.
Yeah.
Like if you can learn both roles as a routine dancer, that way you can help everyone.
Yeah.
All that sort of thing. Yeah.
I'm going to contradict you.
Yeah, please.
And say I would say 2 to 3 months. Just so you have more of an understanding of like a base.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. I say straight away in comparison to what we're going through now.
Let's go.
Yeah, no, night one. I'm night two.
I'm going to contradict you again, controversially. 15 years.
Whoa.
15 years. You want to master the first one.
Look, that was my outlook on it.
No, I don't actually think that. I think it's really like dependent on you as a person, and you start whenever you want. Really, I think some people kind of just pick up the dance a lot quicker and easier,
Absolutely.
and some people are better at like understanding both roles. Like some people are like really good at leading, but just aren't very good at following. And whether that be just time trying to spend doing it, or just maybe there's like a fundamental thing about it that's too different. So, like, I don't know. I feel like it could really be anything. I think ultimately just start when you want.
Yeah.
I think I was like 3 or 4 years into dancing before I even tried to start switching. But back then, it wasn't a very common thing to see people switching.
I think this is honestly my biggest regret is that I didn't learn to lead earlier. Because I compare this whole situation to learning to drive a manual versus an automatic car.
If she handicaps me every time I want to buy a car, I'm like, it has to be an auto.
Anyway, irrelevant.
It has to be a follow.
It's like So when I learned to drive automatic. I didn't do manual, and that's because I lived in the sticks. I needed to get my license quickly, and that was just the easiest route to go. And that's just how it was.
Yeah.
So I learned to drive automatic. I have not learned manual. And I think 2 years ago, I attempted to learn manual.
With the wrong person, let's be honest. You're with the wrong person.
Yeah.
Were you the person?
Did I teach you?
You tried. And then I paid a professional. But anyway.
Did you?
Yes,
that's right. I do remember
But
this.
it is so much harder to go back and learn manual now that I've been in auto for so long, and I've literally given up on it. Partially because everyone just makes auto cars now anyway. So yay!
Yeah.
But I think for me now going back to learn to lead after following for like almost 2 decades is really difficult now.
Yeah.
And you're not really learning, are you? Would you say you're like persistently...
I'm not actively learning.
No.
Yeah.
I step in when I need to, and I know how to lead like basics.
Yeah.
I could do...
Very well, might I add.
He doesn't need that. But yeah, I think it's actually harder to go back and learn to lead than it is to go back and learn to follow.
Okay.
It's hard, I can't because I started with leading. It's like hard to kind of say. I will say, when I started following, and maybe this comes back to like when you should start, because I had already had like a generally pretty good foundation to kind of go off of. To the point at which where I wasn't really thinking about what I was doing. Like I'm doing the things because it's now inherent in my body, that it was, my struggle with then going to following, and this happens when I try different styles as well, is how much extra thinking I then have to do and how much more of a beginner I start feeling like. And that's like it feels like a lot of, when I first started following, it was just like when I started doing it, there was so much more mental energy required to get through a dance because I was thinking about all of these different things now that in leading, I don't have to think about these things. I can have a chat during my dance.
So
it's true though, because you almost have, I almost have two brains now that I'm like, what would I like my follow to do at this point if I was leading my follow? And then can I try to do that? Or did I just fuck up my lead? Because not every lead's the way I lead, and not every follow is the same. So now you I relate it to my leading is much more secure in the sense of like if I have different types of follows, I can accommodate and make kind of fix. I don't see it as fixing, but like I can help out with doing whatever. Yeah. And then as a follow, I can't really help with shit. Yeah. I can screw you up. Or
what do you mean? You can do that as a lead as well.
You can definitely do that
do
as
a
a
dip.
lead.
I did that one time.
Oh shit! Oh, but
I came first.
But they held on. They held on.
You know the one I'm talking about?
I do know that. Was this tap?
Tap, like
You were
2019.
lucky.
Yeah.
I literally went like,
That was very lucky.
Dip.
yeah.
Let go. Woo!
Very fortunate.
Everyone, like people were cheering, and I was like,
That was sick. That was sick.
scary.
I think yeah, and that's like yeah, again, like when I first started, just so much mental energy, and I guess I like struggle more now to feel like a beginner. I think maybe it's an ego thing, or like maybe just because it's been so long since I've been there, but it just like requires a lot more. Oh, back then at least it did. But again, I think if you just like stick to anything for long enough, you're gonna start developing. A lot of it will become muscle memory.
This comes back to what you were saying too, like, are you sticking with the learning process, and like, are you gonna stick out the time and go through feeling like shit?
Yeah.
Are you gonna actually, like, no matter what time you start, you're probably not gonna realize how hard it is when you get into it until you start it. And then do you continue to push through it and keep going, or do you stop?
Yeah.
Like, even if there is a big gap, or if there's a little gap, I guess if there is a small gap when you first start, it'll be less realized because you don't know.
Yeah.
But like when there's a bigger gap, you know the differences and you can feel it and you're like, shit.
Yeah.
So it'd be easier to start earlier in my mind, because then you don't have that big knowledge base to base off of, I'm not doing so well.
I'm curious on what you guys think like would be the easier path to go of like following to leading or leading to following. Because I think when I started, again, like you get past that first hurdle of like thinking so much about it. And then once you kind of start getting all of it, because I've said this before, sometimes I kind of do think I just like following more than I like leading. Because there's so much more, I think, freedom of expression that and like a space for like putting your own personal things into the dance as a follow more than you can as a lead. And I think I like that because at least when I started leading, I took most of my styling inspiration from followers. So I thought what they were doing was so interesting. And then when you start following, it's like, oh, I feel like I can place this in a way that I just have to sit within the connection or within this framework that I have. And then I can work within this, as opposed to leading where it's like, I have to set up a framework that requires me to be sometimes it limits some of the ideas I have styling wise, because I have to focus on
something to add on this or no?
Yeah.
I honestly don't think there's a wrong or right way in terms of which one to start with. I just think it's a matter of timing in terms of when you actually start to switch and understand the other role. And I don't know whether it's because it's more common or because followers just happen to naturally have a quicker understanding of the dance, but there are more followers that do lead and do it successfully, I feel, than leaders that follow and do it successfully.
Yeah.
What about on the
definitely
sense of,
here.
like, we kind of touched on what Mackenzie was kind of touching on then, like, more freedom as a follow, but that's also coming from two leaders that are trying to follow.
Oh no, there is 1000% more freedom. It depends on the lead. Like if you get,
that's what I was going to say.
If you get a lead that restricts you, then obviously no.
This is what I was going to say. Or one lead that you get that trusts you and like lets you, and then works with you. I guess not trusts you, like works with whatever the hell I'm doing.
Yeah.
I think it's still a matter of like, as a follower, how good are you at finding opportunity in a smaller space? Because I can find opportunities to have freedom in a small space. I just need to have the technique and knowledge behind it to do that. That's all.
Yeah, I guess that's the same for leading as well. Like, there's like nothing's impossible. You just have to figure out how to make it work, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's really interesting. How do you go? Like, I know you say like you're not super active in like your leading, but what is the experience of? Do you feel when you are leading comparatively to like when you're following? I
definitely don't enjoy leading as much as I do following.
Why not?
Like, I don't, well, first of all, it's probably because I don't really have the knowledge base of, I guess, pattern content to start with. So I feel like that does limit me a little bit.
That's definitely something that we've all gone through.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, I'm a teacher. I know that you can do 20 different things with one pattern, but it's still like thinking about having to lead and be clear of what I'm asking of my follower. I think that's probably more the problem. I'm thinking more about what I'm asking of the other person as opposed to just giving them a pattern. I definitely don't enjoy leading as much, but I'm happy.
Your brain's turned on more.
It's a lot of thinking.
I wonder, like, do you think that maybe that could potentially be you like limiting yourself? Like, if you just push through that that hurdle of like you get past
Yeah.
it, that you have a bigger repertoire, that maybe the experience would be different.
Maybe, but to be honest, I don't even have enough time to train my following right now. So it's not really something I want to actively go and pursue with leading.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? We're at dance every freaking Tuesday and Thursday, and then like
Yeah.
you can train it, you can lead.
We're
that class.
teaching the people.
No, this is the funny thing, right? Is I see follows always doing it first because there's more more follows.
More follows.
Yep.
So instead, like at class, there's less leads. So like that's the time I would train it for
Yeah,
sure.
except when you're the teacher
Yeah.
and you're teaching and you're not in the class. And then when I'm in the class, I do usually end up.
Oh, you're
teaching
talking about
leading.
learning the thing.
Like
Yeah,
Gotcha, yeah,
like
gotcha.
training. Like
Gotcha.
I want to spend
Not training.
time.
Like training to me is like
Yeah.
like practicing, and like learning is like doing the workshop. If that makes
Like
sense.
I want time away from the social floor to
Gotcha.
practice
Gotcha.
my
Gotcha. Gotcha.
leading.
Right.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But
yeah, yeah,
right
yeah.
now, I just get thrown to the social floor, and I'm
Mhm.
like, ah.
I haven't learnt anything else.
I know. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
For sure.
That makes sense.
I think it's interesting. Yeah, it's really tough, and it's like again always the case, especially for like us. This is a very common thing of like being like way more followers. I'd be interested if there are any schools or if anyone's watching this that has the opposite problem of having too many leaders, because I'm fairly certain
There
I've heard
is
that a
times that
couple
we've had
times.
more leaders,
Yeah.
but it's
Yeah.
it's more rare.
But I
to,
wonder like a place
The
if anyone
majority.
has like a that being the
Consistent.
dominant.
the majority.
problem.
The majority
Yeah,
problem
yeah.
is having more leaders than followers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I think there's much more of a push and much more people switching these days, which is very, very cool to see.
So
It's awesome.
one of the other things I want to talk about is also like we taught a workshop in Valentine's swing.
Mhm.
Oh, what country is that?
Sweden.
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 So
Sweden.
it was really cool because we taught our dance etiquette on how to go to ask people to dance and act excited. Leaders ask follows, follows ask leaders. Everyone asking everyone basically. Because like back in the day,
It was always the
I like my-
leaders seek sort out the followers.
yeah,
Oh, no.
like not just back in the day. I think it's more of a confidence thing.
Yeah.
Like it was seen as like a partner dance would be, well, here anyway is my interpretation. I'm interested to see if it's the same, but like leaders should ask the follows.
Yeah.
Like be a gentleman, go ask the follows if they would like a dance. But we have more follows, and then follows get left out, all that sort of thing. And that's generalizing,
norms.
generalizing,
Oh.
whatever.
Genderalizing.
Generalizing.
Generalizing also works.
Yeah.
I
So-
think
and, like-
that's appropriate.
And not always now is leaders. If you're a leader, you could be a follower. Like
Yeah.
if you're a dude, you could be a follow, and that's your main role. If you're
Going
a
back
follow,
to Valentine's, though.
anyway, we
How
taught
are
that
you-
workshop, and one of the girls that came up and asked us like, and they said, leading is my main role
Yeah.
because she's like a girl that leads mainly. How many followers go up and ask her to dance?
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, that's
Because
tricky.
like as me as a bunch of other women that might be followers or anyone that is a follow, generalizing will go up and ask a dude to lead them.
Yeah.
As a historic thing, I guess. So like how do you treat that, and how do you talk about that is a pretty big thing. Like everyone has to ask everyone, and then you have to ask, okay, hey, would you like to lead or follow?
Yeah.
But then if you don't do both roles, why would you ask?
Well, if you don't do both roles, why are you there? If you don't do either role. Oh, you mean
Yeah,
like
yeah.
Switch.
you're asking someone that
know
doesn't
me?
do either role.
And then
What do they
this
do?
is, and then this is where we now have labeling things
Yeah.
at some events and classes, like wristbands or badges or stickers or something. And
I see a lot of people that will just like on their own volition just buy themselves shirts.
like a
that just
switch
say,
shirt.
I switch.
Oh, yeah. Or I'm a leader.
Badge.
I'm a follow. Yeah.
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 I think I think definitely for that purpose specifically, I think it's very useful, especially if because the person that came up to you, she leads and like that's her preference.
Yes.
But that's never going to be assumed.
No.
It might be assumed in a few years' time. It might be more open to
I'm
that.
interested where this space will go.
Yeah.
I'm really interested.
Yeah, for sure.
I think in the current time, I'm a fan of like the badges and the wristbands and that.
I
Kind
don't
of
necessarily
thing.
like a badge because my badge fell off. I like the wristband.
Just
I like
something
wristbands.
that like gives you something that says, "Hey, I can do both. Feel free to ask."
Face painter that
Like
will,
the the clubbing.
draw like a
We go clubbing and it's like single, ready to mingle.
The traffic light party.
The
Oh,
traffic light party.
light
Yes.
We should get Ambo for switches.
Yeah.
yes. Yeah, I mean,
But
like,
this-
absolutely. I think For sure, like some sort of signifying thing. Something that isn't like crazy and like enroaching on like your person. Like a wristband feels very nice.
I'd like to ask.
Maybe a hat would be too much.
Well, they also just, they're annoying to wear while you're dancing.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know.
Well,
Is
one
it-
that buckles up. A helmet.
A helmet?
Is there ever times that you guys have like mostly you and I, like that you just want to follow one night?
Of course.
Same.
Of course.
Same.
There's so much, like, there's many times.
Yes.
A lot of the time I'm like, I want to
It's
follow
pretty
so
great.
much.
I just want to follow this whole night.
I guess I often will, not the pressure, I guess the pressure of
it's
like
pressure.
being in class where there's just so many followers and I am like a predominant lead.
Yes.
I would a lot of the times prefer to follow, but there are also so many followers that are going to ask me to dance and I'm not going to say no to people because I do like leading as well. It's very, very cool.
I have an interesting question. Sorry, keep going.
I think, like I think that's it. Like it's just,
Don't laugh at me for letting him keep going. It's like Zach's an interrupter, but I didn't interrupt. Oh no, I did interrupt.
Good job.
And then I was
brought
like,
it
You're
back.
literally doing it right
Yeah,
now,
good-
but
yeah.
that's fine.
okay, so
Yeah,
back to interrupting.
not interesting.
Anyway, yeah. I think I don't even remember what I was saying.
Yeah,
so
cool.
that's like
So-
a good That's his plan.
Segue.
That's his plan. Yeah.
Okay, do you ever feel like
I was
there's-
just thinking that like, maybe the wristbands would be good because maybe one night I would feel like a follower and I'd just like put that baby on. Yeah, like
Oh, wow.
right on my
Okay,
wrist,
What a
and
visual.
everyone would know.
What a visual.
I've had multiple conversations about this, right? So with other people, and one of the things that was brought up was like being able to communicate versus having a wristband or a symbolized thing on there. That
Yeah.
why do you even need it, kind of thing. Like if we can all communicate. So I think it'd be cool if we could also just be like and respect the space of like.
Yeah.
Just because you're a dude doesn't mean you're a leader. Or just because you're a chick doesn't mean you are a follower. Like, maybe that's not your main role.
Yeah.
In saying that, it might take twice as much time to be like, hey, can I have a dance?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm not against that. The only thing is, that's an argument I've heard before.
Yeah.
Right? So,
I think like I for sure like I think whatever is needed to be done to get there. I think like I feel very comfortable kind of asking anyone. But I think, I guess at least the difference that I feel from my position, especially to yours, is I think on a social floor, maybe this is just me making this up, but I would assume that probably I'm getting watched from the sidelines a lot more than maybe other people are, in the sense of that people will see me following, I think more than like a novice follower leading. Does that make sense? Like you're at an event. I feel, and maybe this is just me with a big head being like, everyone
no,
wants
I
to
get
watch
you.
me.
I get you. I get you. No,
Which is
I can
probably,
continue.
yeah. But like, I think maybe more eyes would be showing that, and because I guess the volume of my following as well, in terms of how much I actively try to do it. That like, and then also just my skill.
Because this is another thing you have to be careful about.
Yeah.
Is like if you say no to someone and then you say no because they asked you to lead, and then you go ask someone and then you follow, is that perceived as the same thing as you saying no to someone for them asking you to lead them and then going ask? So
Yeah.
okay, scenario. I go ask Maddie, hey, can we have a dance? And she says no, but then she goes to lead you. Am I going to be offended by that?
You should be.
Okay, cool.
No.
Sorry. No, just scenario. The
But
next,
just
the next
only
scenario,
with this.
But
Yeah.
that's
next
me
sce-
assuming that you're leading.
The next scenario, yes.
There's layers to
Yes.
this.
The next scenario is
my bad.
me asking you to dance and you say no, and as a follow, let's just say as a follow, and then you start following Mackenzie. I'd be more
I
offended.
would just do that any
I'd be
day.
yeah. Yes. I'd be more offended. So like, then there's a layer of that being.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
For sure. I also do, I am like a firm believer of the, you can just say no to dances. So
Yeah.
like, generally it's fine. However, I will say that like, even I've had like situations of this where I've said no to someone and I think like retrospectively, yeah, maybe not the best idea, but then immediately asked someone else to dance, but to follow, this is like exact thing.
All right.
And I think that initial person, did feel some type of way about
See,
it.
I actually wouldn't be offended by that. Like if because I do both roles.
Yeah.
If you're asking to do a different role, I think that's a completely different skill set, completely different mindset, completely different thing.
Yeah.
Whereas like if you did lead, I understand that too. Like maybe you had a line, maybe whatever. I think it's just it's something that came up in conversation a couple of times.
Yeah. I wonder, I'm curious, I guess this would be more for you, would be, because I have this situation happen, especially when I'm at events, and there's like definitely people I can bring to mind, because I can almost now guarantee that this will happen, where I ask someone to dance like this because I want to follow, and they'll always... Yeah, always just like put it out. Yeah. And that will be my... If it's... And this will only be...
Can I have a dance? Can I have a dance?
Again, this will be to leaders, like male or like predominant leaders.
But you're not asking a follow...
Yeah.
Or a...
Actually, no, I think I do. Like at class as well, I think Caitlin's a good example. If I do
but
this,
you know they lead.
And again, if I know
they lead. Gotcha.
However, sometimes I'll dance with... Like, I'll follow in a dance because I want to follow. I'll ask someone to dance because I want to follow. And they'll start switching midway through. And then I'm like, oh, okay, I guess we're doing this
I've
now.
had the opposite. So I was asked for a switch, and then I start off leading, and then I just...
They
Yeah.
never switched?
Yeah, oh no, they start off leading.
Yeah.
And I was like, I thought they were asking me to follow.
Yeah.
But they never they didn't have the skill of handing over the lead.
Yeah.
So I just followed the whole time. So I had to take it, but I thought I was just following.
Yeah.
So I was like, so we have to be clear on what we're asking for. I like the whole, would you like to dance? Or would you
palm
like to
down,
dance?
palm to the side.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty cool, just as a thing that we could teach, maybe going
You could bring
forward.
that to class.
I think that's pretty cool.
I think that's just, and it feels very intuitive. Like when I'm asking someone to dance as a lead, I'm handing my hand like that because I want them to put their hand there.
And generally, it's going to be a different hand too.
Yeah.
Like your main follow hand would be your right, and your main lead hand
This
would
should
probably
be
be
the
your
thumbnail.
left. Yeah, so thumbnail, are we following or are we leading, right?
Lead.
Yeah.
Wait, no, it'd
Lead
have
follow?
to be lead.
Lead
And
or
I think
follow.
the hand as well. It'd have to be
lead.
lead.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be?
Yes.
This way, lead.
Oh, lead.
lead.
Follow.
Lead. Follow.
Correct,
Cracked
yeah.
the system.
Okay, so
Yeah.
let's start, even for us,
Boom!
we're going to start teaching that now.
Copyright.
Yeah.
I think that we
patent
start teaching that 100%.
Stuff.
I like it.
Yeah.
Like that's how I kind of approach it.
The
I think there should be
MackZaddy
more
switch
to it.
approach.
I think
Also,
there should be
this is
more
with
to
the
it.
knowledge of the person as well. Like I like that. I
Yeah.
know this person leads, or I know this person follows,
Yeah.
so I'm gonna.
So
ask
now we
them
got to think of
the
stuff for switch too. Switch as well is going to probably have something like...
same way. Would you like to dance?
Would you like
It's
to
not
dance?
confusing at all.
gold.
Yes.
But I think again, with the knowledge of someone being able to lead and follow or lead or on whatever end.
I think, I'm not gonna lie, I get asked to lead a lot towards the end of a social dancing period at a dance event weekend, and I'm like, oh, okay.
Do I have the brain capacity?
Mentally, I'm out. I just don't have the capacity.
Yeah.
So what I usually do is I say, yeah, okay, are you happy to switch? Because I don't want to lead the whole time, gotta be honest. So I tend to ask if they're okay with switching.
That's fair.
But yeah, I think it's something you need to be very clear with. Is it a switch dance or a
Yeah.
lead?
I do, and a lot of
And people...
if anyone is watching this, that I in future do ask to follow. If you would like to switch, let me know beforehand.
Beforehand, yes.
It would be nice. Look, it's not the end of the world, and I'm always here to switch. I'll always do it. But sometimes I do just want to follow.
Yeah.
So if I ask like this,
Yeah, you do.
if I ask like this, we're in. If I ask like this, we're not so in. But again,
this is gonna be a thing.
You're in, though.
This is gonna be a thing that we
You're
probably
in.
teach around the world now when we teach.
yeah.
Which is cool. I like that we're figuring out with you guys being one of the first audiences that get to hear this probably.
Yeah.
Depending on
you
when
heard
it's
it here
out.
because we're about to start charging people for this information.
Yeah,
So
this is patented now
patent.
stuff.
If we start hearing this
That's
info
the word.
anywhere else,
Patent-
we're gonna have
patented?
issues.
So-
Patented.
Patented?
Yeah.
Patented?
Patent?
Patent.
Like a patent?
Cop-
Patent?
Yeah.
Back on that, with the whole, you being asked to lead, I think when you're asking people, I think it's probably safe to assume you should probably have an understanding of what this person's role is before you ask. So, I think that would be cool if it translates to comps too. If you go to a comp and you've only done, okay, no, I take that back. Actually, no, I take that. I take it.
I put it back in.
I take my take back. So I'm thinking out loud here.
back in.
Is
Yeah,
that
yeah.
if you've
Try to
only, let's say I'm a follower, right, and I go to lead, and you go into a comp and you're about to lead. Let's say I'm an all-star follower and I go into an advanced comp leading. Now you can make it intermediate
Yeah.
without a petition. but like maybe you don't even feel like you're an intermediate lead. I think it would be unfair to assume that after one dance of you leading that you'd be ready for the intermediate comp, right? Mm-hmm. So, and I take this into a fact of like multiple levels. So as a beginner, I'm aware that people go to an event being their first weekend ever learning the style. And I love that. I think it's awesome. I think it's super healthy, like to challenge and all that sort of thing. But I think the level that it's at is a much smaller gap. You know what I mean? Like, so learning your first, like push break, left side pass, whip, whatever it is. And then doing a newcomer division or a novice division, I guess, depending on what the event holds, is a lot easier to deal with than if we go to advanced or all-star and you've only followed or led once in your life before.
Do you mean like with the rule of like if you're doing the non-dominant role, you have to do
non-dominant
the
role.
level below.
So if you've only led one time before, would you go compete in an intermediate comp?
Advanced.
Or an advanced comp?
I guess you can go
go 2 levels
when
down.
you're like competing in your opposite role. And you are competing the level
She's out. Below. She's checked out. Yes. That's what I would like to say.
Who would do that?
That's what I'm saying. I think that's been done before a couple of times.
Yeah.
So because we did an episode on like compete levels down, right? Because we have an episode with Robert Burek, which is awesome, how to hack the
system,
or like to cheat the system or whatever it is, which isn't really cheating. It's just a way to get points for the country you live in.
Generate more points.
But I think there's a level of fairness to it. And also even in social dancing, like if you've only done it once before, maybe just consider who you're asking or like know that the other person does that role a couple of times before you go and ask them like, hey, do you want to lead? Even though I've never seen you lead before in your life.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's just a courtesy thing.
That's hard though in class.
Yeah.
Like we're talking about class context.
Well,
these people haven't been to comps. So
no,
don't
class.
even think about comps.
Classes, we run classes twice a week. People have enough consistency to figure out whether they lead or follow.
I'm just thinking of newer dancers, that's all. They don't really know.
No, well, that would be then come to a couple classes, get to learn the structure, get to learn the flow, and then that way the discussion becomes a lot easier to ask whether, hey, would you like to lead or would you like to follow, like you're saying with Caitlin.
I think the wristband thing, though, like, it has pluses and minuses. I think, like, on a plus side, because we have, like, a lot of potentially, like, introverted, shy people that come to class, and I think having that is, like, also a bit of an icebreaker and a conversation starter for a lot of people. So I think that's one positive side of having something like a wristband or whatever you have at class.
Well, yeah, that
because not everyone is willing to just go and have a conversation.
Yeah. An event from people from all around the world. If you've never been there before, you don't know if people are doing this role
Especially
or not.
in a country where people don't speak the same language as you.
Yeah.
It's probably like a fantastic idea.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you know what? I was like kind of thinking about it. I don't think I do ask a female dancer to lead me unless I actually know they lead. But I will always ask a male to lead me.
And
I make that assumption.
Yeah.
And all the female followers that have asked if they can, they've all been the ones to ask me if they can lead me, like overseas as well. So there's like been the very rare occasion where like a leader has asked me to dance and then also said going onto the floor, oh, do you lead as well? And asked, do you want to switch? And I was like, nah, not really.
I think it'd be cool to have the point in time, and I know we're getting there. I think it'd be cool to have a point in time where follows, like, so you, like a follow that is their main role, is such a good leader that they're getting asked to lead. Or leaders is such a good follow that they're getting asked to follow.
You'll get there.
Yeah, one day.
We'll be there when you're ready.
I think that's kind of cool.
We'll be waiting.
We'll be waiting for you.
Yeah, we'll see how long.
I'm at the intermediate level.
In saying this, I'm just gonna bring this up in case it hasn't been brought up before. But did you know that I made it out of advance as a follow before Mackenzie made it out of advance as a lead?
Actually,
I just wanted to bring that up, just in case.
I didn't know that, but I also didn't care to know. Like, that's actually so interesting.
Some more alcohol for your
It just needs to be brought up on podcast, so it's here as a documentation.
It's not like we bring it up every episode.
Or the fact that he's like so close to All-Star but still couldn't compete in it, even though he placed second 50 of us. Anyway, so yeah.
I would actually last thing before we like wrap up. I want to talk about like the experience of now competing in the opposite role because like
I know all about that.
Yeah. I want to know from you. So I want to know so much from your experiences competing in the opposite role.
Got you.
Actually, yeah, my goal for you, Maddie, is to compete in
the opposite role
at least once.
Not once. She's done it once, haven't you? She's done it once, and it wasn't amazing. Yeah, you did
I've
it.
never done it. What are you talking
Like
about?
Jack and Jill.
I've never done it before.
Jack and Jill.
Wow. Okay, you definitely need to do
I've
it.
never done it before.
Yeah. That's my challenge.
Do you want to be better? Do you want to get
I got asked to do it
better?
in Scotland, and I was like, no thanks.
I think you just go to intermediate.
Yeah.
You go to intermediate. You go 2 levels down.
I wouldn't go to advanced, that's for sure.
Yeah.
No way. Are you kidding me?
I was so interested. I'm curious. Well, that's your challenge, and
I
then
can give you
we
the best
we'll have a
basics you've ever
discussion
had, but
about
that's
it
about it.
later because
Yeah.
I'm curious to see what that will feel like for you. Because I was kind of like super surprised when I first started competing as a follower. And this was like 3 or 4 years ago now. But I like casually and socially followed, but then never competed. And then I was like, okay, I'll do it. And I had to start in intermediate. I guess I didn't have to, but I did do intermediate because I was in advanced. I said that in past tense because I am in advanced.
Still there. Six,
But I
what,
competed.
9 points? 9
yeah,
points off?
9 points to
9
go.
9 points.
We're so close.
6 and 9, 69. Good job, guys.
But yeah, I think when I first competed as a follower, it was so interesting because it was the first time in a very long time that I was like nervous, like to compete. I remember like walking up onto the stage for the finals.
We could tell.
Wait, you still look nervous when you compete. What do you mean?
Yeah, I feel it.
You look nervous when you.
But I got I was getting the shakes, guys. I was getting the shakes.
The woo.
I had drawn Robert Burig in, I think it was the finals actually.
Okay.
And I remember we're standing up there when they were taking all the photos. It was like a cluster spotlight.
Oh yes, I wouldn't.
Okay.
I would
Yeah.
not compete if it was going to be a spotlight final.
Yeah.
No way, no chance.
But I remember I was
You
like,
will, because
No.
that's your challenge.
That's the
No.
Harden
challenge.
the fuck up.
Your
Yeah.
challenge is compete
Harden the fuck
in
up.
a spotlight
Push
and
through.
come first.
No.
Do you want to be better or no?
So here's the thing. Like my concern is, and judges that are out there, I love you, but I would like to think that I would be put through because I'm good enough to be put through, not just because I'm Maddie Skinner.
That's
Do
the
you know what I
same thought I've had.
No, yeah, I know, but like I would, I just don't want to be in that position where I'm like, oh, I just feel like I'm here because
Same thought I've had.
Skinner.
Don't worry, mate. If it makes you feel better, I will put you
Thanks,
through.
thanks, Kens. I would like to know that you would honestly judge me because I will
would.
be there to build the numbers.
Yeah.
And I think
prelims.
that's the problem too. Like,
For
actually,
sure.
there's been times in the past that I think, like, as a judge, I've definitely been like, oh, I don't necessarily agree with that, but that's and other people, and then I've talked about it a bit more after the results have been out and been like, tell me why.
Yeah.
And then seeing changes amongst that.
I said that to all the judges when you moved up to All Stars.
I also talk about myself the same way. I'm like, how the fuck am I beating these people?
Bro,
like,
we're thinking the same thing.
Everyone
How the
in
fuck
Europe and
is he
America,
beating
I
these
apologize
people?
because I've had conversations with judges afterwards, and I can understand their reasons, and I'm like, fuck, I love that. So I've been focusing on that more, but at the same time, evaluation. I struggle
Yeah, but
with,
then what do you say when competitors are upset that, I guess, like, when competitors are upset that you're competing in your non-dominant role and doing very well?
Suck it up, be better. No, I'm joking.
No, just to be better.
There's a lot of competition things to take on. But what was your point in the whole competition thing?
Oh, I just wanted to know what your experience changing, because, like, majority of my time was competing as a lead, and then more in, like, the 4 years.
I'm done.
Yeah, but you will this year.
Yeah.
It's set.
My experience.
Yeah, does it feel like, did it feel very different? Do you remember the first time you competed as a follower? I guess it was like 2 years ago, whatever.
First time, yeah. So I think the hard thing with being a higher level leader as my dominant role is that I did feel judges put me through as he teaches all this sort of stuff.
It's
Yeah,
a Zach
Zach Skinner.
Skinner.
It's a Zach Skinner. So I did feel like that. But
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
also
That's what I don't want.
I also made a point of like talking about that at the end with a bunch of people, judges and people I competed against, to make them feel like, hey, I don't understand how like competitives are
Wanted
like,
them to know that you're humble.
yeah, humble
Yeah.
wise.
Be humble.
At the same time, get better.
Yeah.
Different,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
But with judges at the same time being like, what
Yeah.
happened?
The thing is,
And-
though, this happens not just with you, with everyone. There's
But
a lot of placings and people that are in finals, and we're like, that's an interesting choice.
Which is not, you
It's
can't
not just
argue
you.
like in judging specifically, like all the judges are varied, right? So like it's no different to doing it in my own role and being like what, and then being like cool, learning from that. So because I did talk about it so much, I learned a lot going through the ranks. So I did probably progress quicker to the point where I felt more comfortable. Even going overseas, I still felt like that in different ways. Challenged by different follows that I would look up to and how they move and being like how.
Yeah.
But then
You never
learning.
asked me that
But
question.
learning no.
You never asked me that question.
How?
How? Just, how.
No, because you always told me what I
no,
need to do better.
How?
You every time someone told me like something, I'd be like, Maddie tells me to do this, this, and this, so I'm trying to do that, and then I'd think about something else. So, yeah, like it just wasn't like it'd take other people saying it different ways for me to understand it. I think I've enjoyed the whole time.
Yeah.
I've definitely been following for a long time.
You were following
and
like when I first. You were
Yeah,
like
I was
one
following
of, like,
before
the
you
very-
started leading.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But I wasn't doing it as a competitive level. I was just
Yeah.
doing it for fun because that's something that leaders did just for fun. And in saying that, back in the day when I learned how to follow in modern jive, we had a thing called Battle of the Sexes. So what that was actually based around was more what I envisioned it as was actually just taking the piss.
It
Like-
definitely was.
Like people, the leaders with leaders, and like one of them was following, one of them was leading. Like the guys together would go up in high heels or with like a banana.
Actually,
or like,
no.
Do you know what I mean?
what? I competed in this in Mon Jive every
No,
year.
I didn't say the follows. The follows.
No, that's
smashed
what
it.
I'm saying. No, but the follows attitude was like, we're got to take this seriously,
And
and
they-
fucking smash
they
it.
were great.
The leaders were like, how funny can we be?
Correct.
Yeah, yeah.
Correct.
Very
different
different
mindset.
vibes.
And then how did that then end up going?
It was
going
kind
in
of
results?
50-50.
Sometimes, yeah, it depends
Yeah,
where you were,
it's
depending who
50-50.
won.
Yeah.
So I think just to me, like, I wanted to be more on the followers mindset of like, if I'm going to do your role, I want to respect it and understand it. So it started to change eventually when I started doing that. Like Matt Fairburn and I started like competing together,
Yeah.
and we started doing pretty well. And then I think that division doesn't really happen anymore.
It doesn't.
because-
Everyone just...
Because it was
Switches.
about the show, I think.
Yeah.
Which is fine. I think it's a funny show. I think it was hilarious.
Yeah.
But I think there's a really cool thing about understanding and respecting the other person's role and being able to do it well.
And not just taking the piss.
So I think there's definitely times that I have taken the piss in a song because it's romantic and stuff. And then I'll get this leader and we'll be like, cool, you don't want to lead anything else? Sure, we'll take the piss out of the song a little bit more. But trying to do it in a way that still respects like how much technique can I bring into it or how much like of all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. I feel like if there is like a bigger takeaway from this is like, or at least in my opinion, I think if you do both roles or you're attempting to learn both roles, it will massively improve
Oh,
whatever the other one
1000%.
is.
Yeah.
Like, I think like since I started, my goal for following was to
Improve the
understand leading better. But then I started following it, was like, oh, this is really cool. But now I have like a really good understanding on the function of both, and it has helped both roles better, as well as my teaching. Like I can see things, in my opinion, a lot better now, understand the cause and effect of things.
And now you probably just want to like understand how can you be a better follower.
Yeah.
Not just
Always.
because of how can I, not just because of you want to be a better lead.
but now because I want to be just to be a better follower
Yeah.
for the sake of following.
Yeah.
And I think at a professional level with this as well, like if you can do both roles, you bring so much
think
more
super
value
valuable. Yeah,
to
super
an
valuable.
event. Like now
As a
there's so many
or
more
student.
solo teachers being hired because they can do both roles.
Yeah.
So if you don't, and this is what if you don't have a dance partner, you can still be successful as a pro. if you can do both roles, it's just like an added value thing now as well. That's really, really effective.
Yeah, no, I love the switch comps in general. Is
I really want to do a switch. I've never done one before.
I reckon when we run an event, let's run an event.
Switch car. But you can't compete.
But
you definitely can't compete together.
Yeah.
No point to.
I'll lead.
Yeah.
I'll lead it, guys.
Yeah.
That's funny.
That's cool. So I think definitely encourage it in the community because I think it's good for everyone. It's good for the community. It's good for the students. It's good for your own dancing.
Yeah.
So I'm all for it.
I love to see it. I love to see it every time.
Yeah.
I'm like, hell yeah.
Nah, I respect
it,
it. I respect it. It's not easy. It's definitely not easy to be able to dance with in the opposite role. Or with the opposite role. Sometimes when you're dancing with Maddie, you're just like, come on, guys. I don't want to do this anymore. But
Anything else? No? All right.
Cool. That's all I got. And with that,
cheers, guys.
cheers.
Guys.